Fasten your seatbelts. It's going to be a bumpy night.
But tell me, Eddie, is that a rabbit in your pocket or you're just happy to see me?
So hello everyone, welcome. I am going to be off camera, as I was telling Steve backstage, primarily because we've had strong winds here. At some points the winds themselves were about 40 miles an hour, roughly.
What
And
does the
there's
wind
still...
sound like over there?
No, I'm not going to do it.
Does it go woo?
Oh God, I'm never living that down. Anyway, but so you might hear it periodically because it's still going. It's still going. So I figure rather than like risk like frozen camera or anything, if like my internet kind of like goes in and out a little bit, I'm just gonna be off camera. Just make it simple tonight. I did see the Crow picture, Soul Assassin. I commented on it, like or at least I quote tweeted the one tweet. So yeah, I've seen the pictures, or at least one picture, and it's anyway. Before I say hello to the chat and like go into, if you can't tell from the title what this stream is about, I also have to tweet out that I am live. Stig, let everybody know where they can find you and all that fun stuff.
Well, here, twice a month. Sometimes I'm on with Miss Martin Muses, who is in the chat, randomly, and sometimes I'm on with Tommy, the Guinea Pig Collective, or Vinny Art.
Mm-hmm.
But that's random too. So the only regular one I'm on is this, and the good, the bad, and the weird.
Good, the fun, and the weird. At some point, you are going to get that title right.
Shit. I thought I had it. I was just about to boast about it.
Yes,
too.
I could tell. I could tell. I was like, nope. Eventually, you will get this right.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm going to make a bold prediction today.
What?
I think we will have 5 crossover picks.
You think?
5. Yeah, I think so.
Well, who knows? But for those in the chats, it is our own personal top 10 films from 1984. Now, does not mean these are objectively the best films from 1984. This is just our own personal favorites. They don't have to necessarily be objectively good, but subjectively enjoyable. I'll leave it to your imagination, Tara. But anyway, they don't necessarily have to be Oscar worthy or anything like that. Just that if they're on, we're sitting our butts down and watching them, pretty much. So basically, I had on my list, how I start is I write down all the movie. I look at the list of films released that year, and I just write down all the films I've seen. And for 1984 alone, I had like 28 to 30 films that I had seen.
That's how I do it, and then I just figure out the 10 I watched the most or kept rewatching the most.
Well, for me, it's like if it's on, will I sit down and watch it, pretty much, and like regardless of what I'm doing, or is it a movie where it's like, yeah, I've seen it, and I can follow it without paying attention, pretty much.
Yeah.
So.
Well, childhood memories.
Yeah. So, pretty much for me, it's like, okay, if this movie was on, would I sit down and watch it? I had to do it that way. I had to narrow it down that way because, like I said, I had like 28 at least movies on this list. So there were movies that I know I like, I know I've seen, and I know I like on that main list, but I had to leave out because it's not the top 30 films; it's top 10.
Yeah, I had to leave out a lot too.
So. But from the top, I see Trey, Samar, and Steve. Can't wait for this lit discussion. Yeah, like 84 and 87. Maybe 85 a little bit, but 84 and 87 were definitely big years in the 80s for films.
86 and 88 too, actually.
For me, it's 84 and 87 primarily.
Yeah, 86 has Aliens.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm saying they are big years, but for me, it's like what I remember are those 2 years specifically from films that I've watched.
Yeah, I've actually gone ahead and started a few of the others, and I was surprised by how many really good ones that you'd find in the in 85
Mhm.
and 86 as well.
Yeah, there were a lot of good, like a lot of films from 1984.
Well,
Maybe.
Barbarian is not 84. Conan the Destroyer is.
Oh yeah, Conan the Destroyer. Yeah.
Yeah.
Jaluk, member message for 12 months. Thank you so much. It says, "What's up, Mara and Stig? Good to see you, Jaluk." Now this is my kick. I'll be here. I'll be live tomorrow on my kick. Plan is to play some Helldivers 2 with at least Cowman and maybe Gigawatt, who I know is in the chat. So if you're free, Gigawatt, again, let me know. But I'm looking into dive back into Helldivers. Let's see. Corey, what is up? Vanya, Terminator as number 1. Who's with me? Well, Trey. Yeah, Trey's with you. I called Trey's number 1. Pretty much. I was not late. Not exactly late. Hey, Mike. Hello. Ms. Mari Muses, what is up? The chat got a kick out of the D&D story yesterday. From Sunday.
I did nothing wrong with that. I catered to the group.
There's something wrong with your brain.
No.
It's like twisted catering, pretty much.
Well, urban legends and
Anyway, let's see. Make sure. Yeah, sounds like Ric Flair. Yeah. This is my Discord. I finally broke down and created my own Discord server where I have like different sections that you can talk about, and as well as voice channels where every other week or so, I've been doing watch parties. Watch parties on my Discord. Last time we watched Rise of the Lycans. So the next one I'd be planning would be not this coming weekend, but the following weekend. Either Friday night, well, maybe Friday night, but they have to be kind of on the short side. But yeah. So planning another one. Let's see. Make sure I don't miss anyone. Yes. Keely says, "Good morning from Hong Kong." Well, good morning. Well, good morning to you. It is evening for me. Now it's a little after 8 p.m. Eastern for me. And it's early morning for Stieg.
yeah.
Let's see. Sounds like there was never a slow week throughout the 80s. Yeah, pretty like the 80s. I think was there was the golden age of cinema. All right, so I'm not discounting that because there are lots of movies I've seen from like the 30s, 40s, and 50s that I believe are absolute classics. I love, like very much. But as far as peak cinema, at least modern times, pretty much 80s to 90s was like peak cinema for films.
Yeah. I'd say 83 through 94.
Mm-hmm. It was like Hollywood. Like, I'm not saying that every movie that Hollywood churned out in that time period was a winner, but there were more winners than losers in that time period.
Well, there was a hell of a lot of winners in the cinemas because
Yeah. Some like I'm saying, like like nowadays, you're hard pressed to find a movie that you're like, yeah, I'm willing to plunk down money to go see that in theaters. Back then,
and you'd also feel like you'd have to defend the movie somehow because it's back then nobody would attack Beverly Hills Cop or Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
Because everyone knew they were fantastic movies, but now it's kind of you might like it, but half the world won't.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of you like it or you don't. But back then it was like everyone liked it.
Yep. Abomination, what is up? All right, so I am caught up. Perhaps every 50 years is peak cinema, so in 2030 we'll start getting really good movies. I don't know. Hope, like, fingers crossed. Hopefully, we start getting it before then. But like I said, it's like you have the golden age of Hollywood, then in terms of quality of movies, a major dip in what Hollywood was turning out.
Yeah.
And then you slowly saw it start to rise in the 70s and like really peaked.
The early 2000s, I guess from 2000 to 2010, we got a lot of really good stuff.
Hmm. Like there's always an ebb and flow. There are longer ebbs in Hollywood,
Yeah.
but when it flows, you get movies like what we're gonna see on our lists, pretty much.
In the last few years, the only movies that I thought were great that I watched was probably Ghostbusters Afterlife and Top Gun Maverick.
I subjectively and relatively enjoyed Ghostbusters Afterlife. I would not call it objectively good. Um, I guess for the most part enjoyable, but I loved Godzilla. Godzilla minus one. I absolutely loved that, but I loved Top Gun Maverick. It just worked as a sequel. Like it
Yeah,
actually
yeah,
a fleshed out
they
story.
nailed it.
Yeah, and I hope they do not do a third one. At least, at the very least, if they do a third in the Top Gun movies, I don't want Maverick coming back. He had a good send off. Leave him be. You introduce the new recruits, you like the new flyers. Do one with like Rooster and Hangman or something like that, or bring those guys in. Leave Maverick out. It'd be just he had a good send off. So I did enjoy. What is up with my mouse? I did enjoy Operation Fortune. That was actually a decent movie, Guy Ritchie movie. I loved Sisu. Yeah, but anyway, so as we do for those who are new to these streams, Stieg rolls a d20 to see who goes first because we switch off, back and forth.
Yeah. Well, pick.
I'll go 1 through 10.
Or,
I'll go 1 through 10 this time.
3. It's been like 2 years or something.
Yeah.
And I've never won.
Yeah. Well, anytime
so maybe we should just
involved
maybe we should just ditch it and have you start.
I don't know. Well, I'm just waiting for the time when it's it actually likes you.
Yeah, I'll be like, yes, you bitch.
Yes,
I won.
That's why I want to keep the rules. I want to see.
I'll have a speech ready for it.
Yes, exactly. But anyway,
St. Crispin's Day speech.
Holy God. Anyway, all right. My number 10 is I prefer overall the Halloween movies. I prefer Michael Myers as a killer. But when this movie came out, pretty much the premise of not being able to fall asleep because you die in your sleep, you die in your dreams. Or you die in your dreams, you die in real life, pretty much. Because that's how the killer in this one, from the mind of Wes Craven, Nightmare on Elm Street, Hazel and Ronan. I almost put Children of the Corn on the list. I didn't quite put it on the list, and I did not include Last Starfighter, which becomes a surprise to those that actually did a retro review of Last Starfighter, because I had to really narrow the movies down. But for me, this is one of my earliest memories of watching a scary movie. And when you're young and you're watching a movie where you can't go to sleep, it kind of sticks with you. It really sticks with you. Robert Englund, incredible as Freddy Krueger. He embodies the character, and the character itself was actually from a personal experience that Wes Craven had. Not the whole dream aspect of the character, but the look of the character was from a personal experience Wes Craven had, and it translated well into the horror film. Johnny Depp's first film, yes, thank you, Soul Assassin. Johnny Depp's first film, and he had one of the most memorable kills in horror movies. You see what happens to him, and that does not go away. And you didn't really see exactly what happened to him. You just saw the aftermath, but the aftermath scene alone, was just memorable. So basically, yeah, Tina's death, yeah. It's like I said, and these teenagers begin begin dying, but they're dying in mysterious circumstances, and it's the result of this person, this man, who was killed by the adults. All right, now basically, originally, all right, when Wes Craven was like writing this film and getting ready to film it, Freddy Krueger was actually supposed to be a child molester. He was actually supposed to be a child molester, but there was a real world case happening at the same time. So the studios was like, we can't do this, otherwise we'll be accused of art imitating life, even though that wasn't the case. So in the film, Freddy Krueger went from being a child molester to a child murderer, and so he was like, caught. He was murdering children. Eventually, the parents tracked him down and performed some vigilante justice on him, and he's come back to exact revenge on the parents of Elm Street by killing their children. It's still heavily implied, but they changed it. Like, basically they changed it like that he was a murderer because they did not want to be accused of art imitating life when the movie came out. So basically he's exacting his revenge on these parents by killing their children. And one of the most brilliant ways possible. Basically, he's sent to hell, right? And he kills them in the dream world. So, if you die in your sleep, you're not coming back. The remake sucked. The only good thing in the remake, two good things. All right. One, Jackie Earle Haley. He was actually very good as Freddy Krueger. I will give him that. He was actually very good as Freddy Krueger. The script was shit, but he was very good as Freddy Krueger. Yeah, Clancy Brown basically is good in just about everything he does. So I'm talking about the positives of the film overall. Was Jackie Earle Haley, despite the shit script, and the fact that he was the remake gave him the original origin he was supposed to have, and that was a child molester. Two positives I can say about the movie. Oh, but the movie itself, utter fucking shit. I like to pretend it didn't ever happen. The only really good remakes have been Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Friday the 13th.
Yeah, I like both of those, and I actually like the Evil Dead remake, but it's more of a reboot, isn't it?
Yeah, that's more of a reboot.
Actually, it's more of a part two to the first one.
Yeah. So, My Bloody Valentine was actually better. The remake was better than the original. Yeah. So.
The Fright Night remake was awesome. Better than the original.
We're going to ignore what he just said. Right, chat?
Hi. Right. I was kidding, madam.
I know, but just like I have the ability to put you in backstage.
Yeah.
Trey can't do that joke anymore because he kept making that joke, and I was like it's shit, like it's crap. He finally watched it, so he's like, yeah, I can't make that joke anymore.
I actually haven't seen it, but it's got Anton Yelchin in it, doesn't it?
Yeah, he plays the Charlie character.
He had a promising career before he passed away. Seriously.
Yeah, so he wasn't bad in it, but it's just the movie itself. It just wasn't that good. And they changed things about the characters that you're changing things about the characters and it doesn't quite make sense. Setting it in Las Vegas was actually smart for them to do, because that gives them a plausible reason for Jerry Danders to be up at night.
Yeah.
So he said the Fright Night remake was better than the original. No, the original Dune hasn't already been mentioned and is not on my list. Please do not judge me. I do love the original Dune. I do love it, but I had to narrow the list down from 28 movies to 10.
Want to hear a secret?
What?
I've never watched it.
I fully give you, chat, permission to judge him.
It's one of those movies that every time I wanted to watch it, something came up.
Which Dune abomination? The 1984 one or the current?
The 1984 one.
No, I'm saying he says Chris Gore apparently hated Dune, but which one? Because there was the 1984 one and the 2021 one. The 1984 one I very much enjoy. The 2021 was... He hates that one? Oh, come on. It's more entertaining than the 2021. The 2021 was just visually pretty. That was it.
I like the new one.
It's overrated.
But, I wouldn't give it a 10 out of 10.
It's like just visually pretty. That's it.
Well, I am going to watch the 84 Dune rather soonish. It's on my list of stuff to watch.
All right. Watch it soonish and then compare and see how you feel at comparing it to the 2021 one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm saying he filmed a lot. Like that, the movie itself, the original 1984 Dune was actually longer. So so I'm wondering how it would have been if the studio had allowed him to do like a part 1 and part 2, like the 2021 and this part 2 one. Like how it would have been. So,
David Lynch's best work was Twin Peaks.
So
hands down.
I gotta tell you, Michael, I have like no inclination whatsoever to watch part 2 for Dune. The miniseries, I'm sure I watched, but I only really watched them when they were on. So I'd have to go back and rewatch them. It's been that long since I've seen them. But anyway, yeah, so Nightmare on Elm Street is my number 10.
Well, my number 10 is a movie that flopped. But I love it anyway. And this is one you need to fucking watch, Trey. And you too, Maura. And Teresa. Rhinestone.
All right, you can talk about it with the chat while I take my dog out. Because she's crying by the door. So, hold on.
Basically, Dolly Parton is having trouble with a toxic agent or manager, I guess, who wants to sleep with her. And they make a bet. She's going to sleep with them. If she fails to make anyone a good country singer, and he gets to pick who it is, and they run into a New York cab driver played by Sylvester Stallone, and she has to train Stallone in country singing, and he sings in it badly. However, he gets a bit better. He's not that bad when he sings duets with Dolly Parton, but she's carrying it. They even released a CD, but so Stallone goes with her to, I think it's Tennessee or something, the town she's from, and he meets with the locals and runs afoul of her ex. And yeah, he basically goes to country singing boot camp, and they're also teaching him how to behave like a cowboy. And it's hilarious because it's so out of place. And yeah, it's worth a watch, but it's not the best movie ever made. The reason why I have it on my list is because I just watched it a lot when I was a kid. It was on TV when I was at a friend's place for a sleepover, and that was on, and he had a TV in his room, which is you had to be rich for that one back in the 80s, and yeah, that was on, and we were laughing so hard we almost pissed ourselves. So anyway, Rhinestone, worth a watch. Let's see. Yeah, you'll watch it this weekend, Trey. Okay, yeah, I think you might like it, and some of the humor in it is not politically correct at all, which fits with the '80s, doesn't it? I'm actually sure it would be canceled today, but let's see what else. People praising mentioning the miniseries. You know what, Trey? I have the miniseries for Dune, but I haven't watched it yet. I actually have a lot of Dune stuff that I was going to watch, but didn't get around to it. So maybe I'll watch all of it before the second movie is out. Let's see. Terry Crystal says it wasn't horrible, but it wasn't great either. I agree. I don't think it deserved to flop, though. You know, it wasn't flop worthy. I'd say like a 6 or a 7, depending on your mood when you watch it. Oh, Bruce mentions this is Spinal Tap. That one is awesome, but I've only watched it once, so it's not on my list. But yeah, that one's fantastic. They did a movie like that up here in Norway in the late '90s. It was called "Get Ready to Get Voiced" or something. It's basically a Spinal Tap with a boy band. Really
this movie's on my list.
Anyway, I yapped about Rhinestone.
All right. Okay. So we're on our number 9s.
Yep, it's my turn.
Yes.
I have Conan the Destroyer.
All right.
Which is the Conan movie that sticks the closest to the source material, actually. Even though it's PG-13, it should never have been PG-13, because that's...
Well, the 80s was special when it came to the rating system. PG-13 now would be considered R.
Well, what happened was the guy who owned the studio felt that Conan should be more for kids and more of a PG-13 action movie or adventure movie.
Mm-hmm.
So he didn't understand the source material because Conan should not be PG-13 at all. It's like making a PG-13 Jaws, doesn't work. But a hell of a diverse cast if you think about it. You have Arnold, you have a blonde female, you have an Asian guy,
Mm-hmm.
you have a black male, you have a black female. They check all the boxes in it. Grace Jones's character though was gender swapped because Zula, which is the character she plays, is a male. In the comics, he was played by Roy Thomas. He's a warrior sorcerer. So they didn't get that character right. But Grace Jones was awesome in it.
Mm-hmm.
Superb soundtrack. And I'd say Conan the Destroyer is more of a guilty pleasure movie than anything.
Mm-hmm.
It's a fun adventure story with dubious special effects. And I think Andre the Giant played the giant monster at the end. Because there's a picture of Arnold and Will Chamberlain and Andre the Giant, right?
Mm-hmm.
Arnold's dressed as Conan, and he's like tiny compared to them. But yeah, Conan the Destroyer. A friend of mine had it on VHS. I borrowed it all the time. So yeah, worth a watch if you haven't seen it. But it's not any kind of masterpiece.
No, but I'm saying it doesn't have to be these movies don't have to necessarily be objectively good as long as these are on personal favorites.
Yeah. So I simply had to have it on it because of the sheer amount of times I've watched it.
Mm-hmm.
But if you love movie music, the soundtrack in this one and the original are up there with the best. It truly stands out. So anyway, Conan the Destroyer. Have you seen it?
Years ago. I haven't watched it in years, so I'd have to go back and rewatch it.
Yeah, turn off
The only
your
one I
brain.
can say I haven't seen is the remake with Jason Momoa. I have not seen that one.
That one sticks to the source material way more than the original. And Momoa is actually more like the Conan that was described in the books,
Okay.
because he's not supposed to be as buff as Arnold. He's more lean.
Mm-hmm.
And Conan did not grow up as a slave. That goes completely against his character. And
Okay.
the problem with the Momoa one was the villains and the plot. It was dumb. The villains
Okay.
were in the movie, basically. But
Yeah.
Momoa nailed it. And the kid who played Conan when he was a kid,
Mhm.
holy shit, that was a 10 out of 10. So, worth a watch, but it's basically a good Conan in a bad movie.
Okay. All right. Well, I might at some point give it a watch, but I definitely have to rewatch the first ones.
Yeah. Well, that one I watch once per year, at least. But yeah, Conan the Destroyer was my number 9.
Okay. Now my number 9 is a Christmas movie, but I had to include it because we watch it
Oh, that
every
one.
year. What?
Well, that one.
Yes, every year, and it's my favorite adaptation of a classic Charles Dickens tale, A Christmas Carol, with George C. Scott. Was it
Yeah.
released in cinemas? No, it was a TV movie, but it's still a film nonetheless. And
Yeah,
it's one of the
it's-
best adaptations of the Christmas Carol story.
It's well, you had me watch it a year or two ago
Yes, roughly.
because I hadn't seen it, and I'd say as an adaptation,
Mhm.
And as a whole, it's a 10 out of 10.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't see how they could have done that one better.
So I love Neverending Story, and Amadeus is actually on my list. I wouldn't say Muppets is the best. I separate the Muppets one from the George C. Scott one because the George C. Scott one is an actual adaptation, whereas the Muppets one is basically a play on the adaptation. So I separate the two. Like they're like basically on par quality wise, but I don't compare. It's like one's better than the other because it's like comparing apples and oranges literally at that point. But as far as like best live action adaptation, like true adaptation of the source, for me, it's the George C. Scott version. I don't know why people consider the 1951 version with Alastair Sim the best. In my personal opinion, it's not. It's well acted, but they spend way too much time on Ghost of Christmas Past, and they barely touch on Ghost of Christmas Present and Christmas Yet to Come. And like to the point where it's like you're beaten over the head with it. Whereas the 1984 version gives equal time to each of the spirits. George C. Scott is gives a brilliant performance, in my opinion, as Ebenezer Scrooge. And every cast member in the movie is good. Basically, like each of the spirits, because you have Angela Pleasance, Donald Pleasance's daughter, as Ghost of Christmas Past. Then you have Edward Woodward as Ghost of Christmas Present. The actor for Ghost of Christmas Yet to Come.
Isn't that Frank Finlay?
No, Frank Finlay was Morley. Jacob Marley, I should say.
Yeah,
He was Jacob Marley. The Ghost of Christmas Yet to Come, I want to say, do you remember the Twi'lek? The Twi'lek in the Jabba the Hutt's throne room? His like kind of, I believe that's the same actor who played that character. Look that up, Chad, please, because I'm like, because it's kind of hard for me, not hard for me to do, but I'm taking too much time away from that. But I want to say that's the actor who played Ghost of Christmas Yet to Come. You don't see his face, obviously, but holy shit, when you see that, like him on screen as Ghost of Christmas Yet to Come, like it is creepy. Like you are unnerved, and like it's present, like the bony fingers when it points and everything. The Cratchit family is a lot more appealing than the other Cratchit families I've seen in other adaptations. But yeah, it's like like anybody who knows the story itself, like knows basically that these spirits are essentially sent to Ebenezer Scrooge to keep him from off the path that Jacob Marley tread, and then keep him like basically so what happened to Marley doesn't happen to Scrooge, and like have him have a change of heart when it comes to basically not just the Christmas spirit, but just in general as a human being, the generous spirit, humanity, and so forth, without being so heavy-handed, which is what I appreciate. Unlike today's stories.
Well, you
Thank
know
you,
what?
Mike. Yes, I was right. He played Bib Fortuna. I was right. I remembered correctly. Thank you. I'm good.
Well, this story in general is actually completely brilliant.
Yeah.
Because it's supposed to teach people around Christmas time about the Christmas spirit and being a good person.
Yeah.
Otherwise, down the road, it'll bite you in the ass.
Yeah.
So it's a perfectly timed Christmas story in a way, and I'd say this book is probably one of the best works in literature.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's brilliant in its simplicity, and it conveys the message perfectly,
Mm-hmm.
and it's perfectly suited for the time where it takes place.
Yeah. I would say, Trey, watch it to form your own opinion, because I like don't really want anybody to be swayed by my personal opinion when it comes to the film itself. I'll just give you like my one of my major criticisms about the film is the fact that they focus so much on Ghost of Christmas Past, and they take liberties with Scrooge's past, because there's elements of Scrooge's past that we do not know about, but yet for some reason this film felt the need to include in this film, as if to say, like, beat you over the head like this. Did you know he was good? Did you know he was good? Did you know he was good? Pretty much. If you heard my fist going into my hand, that's what I felt like watching that movie. Like, did you know he used to be good? Did you know it?
I like the Jim Carrey one.
It's
kind of
I'd
animated.
watch it at least once to form your own opinion, Trey. Yeah, form your own opinion. I gave mine, but I'd say watch it so you have an idea of what where I'm coming from, and then you might disagree. So, hey, Shield Wall, good to see you. Anyway, but that's my number 9, because again, if you know the tale of Christmas Carol, then you know what happens. I don't need to go into everything that happens in the film, but I had to include this one because we watch it every year, basically around Christmas time. So
it's the story is a classic for a good reason.
Yes. And we also watch, all the Lord of the Rings films too. But whenever we put up the Christmas tree, we always have basically kind of like a little marathon of Christmas Carol adaptations, and we try to end on the best one in our opinion, and that is the 1984 George C. Scott one. So that's my number 9.
Yeah. Wow.
Number 8 is my turn. And it's a comedy. It's a comedy that spawned essentially a franchise of films. I believe there's 7 total, if I remember correctly. We do not exactly acknowledge the 5th one, but Police Academy from 1984.
Fun story. That's my number 8 too.
There you go. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, the 5th one is better than 6 and 7.
They're each not that good, but the 5th one, the reason why I put it below 6 and 7 is because it was missing that that feeling from the first 4.
Yeah, because Guttenberg isn't in it.
Yeah, it just didn't feel like a Police Academy movie. That's why I put it lower than 6 and 7. But basically, you can get away with just watching the first 4.
I actually bought the Blu-ray set
Mm-hmm.
About a month ago, so I'm gonna rewatch them.
So yeah, I think it's yes, for the modern audience version, yes. I say like basically, from my opinion, for those who have not seen the Police Academy films, you can stop at 4.
Yeah.
Um,
You should stop at 4, really.
Yeah. So, because like you're not gonna. It's not like if, like it's like what happens in 4 is going to continue on in the 5th one. That's no, really. The first 4 films feel like a more cohesive plot, like an overarching plot line. And then once the 5th one happens, it's kind of like, well, they're just there.
Yeah, they're just trying to cash in.
Yeah.
And the poor Christopher Lee ended up in the 7th one.
Yeah. So Citizens on Patrol is worth watching, Trey. It's worth watching. That's the 4th one.
Yeah. Number 4 is fun. It's got Sharon Stone in it too.
Yep. So, and it's basically Steve Guttenberg. He's not a low life basically, but he's how do I put this?
Underachiever.
Yeah, like I say, an underachiever, pretty much. He gets in trouble with the law frequently, and it's frequently enough that basically it's instead of serving any time or serving any probation punishment, he's ordered to basically enlist in the police academy. Basically, go through the police academy process as his punishment, so to speak. And that's where he he initially meets Michael Winslow's character, Jones. And I don't know how this man does all the sound effects he's able to do.
Yeah, because he actually does them.
Yes. And of course, Leslie Easterbrook. All right. Callahan. 2 big reasons men loved watching the Police Academy movies with Leslie Easterbrook.
Oh, she's awesome.
Yeah, G.W. Bailey as Lieutenant Harris, basically who's like Steve Guttenberg's character becomes a thorn in Lieutenant Harris's side. Hightower, Hooks, Tackleberry. Like they're all different characters and they're all equally memorable.
Yeah.
Even when it's like Sweet Chuck, when you meet that character in the 2nd one, as well as Goldthwait's character, Ed.
Yeah, Zed. Zed
in the 2nd one, and then those 2 become cops, like join the police academy in the 3rd one. Like they're 2 distinctive characters. It's not like you feel like you're watching the same character over and over again in these films. They're all unique.
Yeah. It's almost cartoony because they have cartoon character traits.
Well, and I think it works. It's a straight up comedy, so it gets a little serious when it needs to get serious, but for the most part, it does not take itself overall seriously because it's a comedy. And basically, Steve, I can't remember what Steve Guttenberg's characters. I'm like blanking on his name, but
Mahoney.
he joins what?
Mahoney.
Oh yeah, Mahoney. I was like blanking on Mahoney. Joins the police academy. He meets all these characters and tries everything he can to get kicked out. He can't quit. If he quits, he goes to jail. But if he gets kicked out, then he doesn't have to go to jail. So he tries everything in his power to get kicked out. But at some point, he realizes he wants to stick around. He actually wants to graduate as part of the police academy.
Oh, and diverse cast.
Yeah, diverse cast.
Really diverse. But Kim Cattrall is in the 1st one.
Yes, she plays the love interest in the 1st one for Mahoney. Yeah,
that was right after she did Porky's.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I say people. Yeah, people were kind of tired of them by the time like the 6th and 7th one rolled around because, like I said, they peaked at 4.
Yeah.
They really peaked at 4. But yeah, David Graff as Tackleberry. He's probably the most memorable character, like outside of Michael Winslow for obvious reasons. David Graff's Tackleberry was the most memorable character, in my opinion.
Yeah. And he gets married, I think, to the lady who played the maid in Clue.
Yeah, because she's a motorcycle cop.
Yeah.
Because he's paired up with her in the 2nd one because they're like their first assignment.
Yeah.
And he ends up marrying her character. Yeah, the one in Russia isn't too bad, but after the fifth one, it's like they go downhill. So it's like I'd say, like for me, it's like you can stop at 4. Hey, Hot Rod. Yeah. So, but yeah, she's a motorcycle cop, and that they get married. Like he's, I love the fourth one because like David Spade's in it. And he and 2 friends are they're forced to go through the Citizens on Patrol program as like punishment. And there's this like scene where Mahoney, Winslow, Tackleberry, and Hightower scare the shit out of the 3 of them.
Oh yeah, with the chainsaw stuff.
Yeah. So if you haven't seen it, watch the 4th one.
Yeah, watch 1, 2, and 3 and 4 if you haven't seen any of them.
Yeah.
You know, the way I remember them was, you know, when you're a kid and your parents would rent movies for you and stuff.
Mhm.
Police Academy was one of their go-to movies because whenever, you know, I was at someone's birthday party and they had rented a movie, right, for the kids.
Yep.
Police Academy movies happened a lot. So it's actually one of those that are actually safe for kids for the most part. So I guess it's family movies as well. The you know,
Mm-hmm.
they would qualify as, which is a lost art, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, Terminator's on my list. And I think they call it community service nowadays, and that's really only for like minor crimes. Where it's like we're not going to pay this, like, you know, to lock your ass up in jail because it's wasting taxpayer money. So we're going to have you do community service. But if you fail to do community service, then your ass is put in jail. But that's basically for like really minor offenses. But yeah, so okay, so both of those are number 8. So basically, you would start number 7.
Yeah. I have one that I know you have on your list too.
All right,
It's Gremlins.
I do have that on my list.
Yeah, figured as much. A great fun movie. It's as simple as that, isn't it?
Yes.
Perfect blend of horror and comedy.
I'd say dark comedy, but yeah, but perfect
Yeah.
blend of horror and dark comedy.
Yeah. Amazing special effects. The Gremlins look all kinds of awesome, and you almost root for them, right? Because they're fun.
A little bit. A little bit. I wouldn't say root for them, but you grow to like love them in a weird
Yeah.
way.
Yeah. Kind of timeless in a weird way, even though I wouldn't like to see one set today because
Yeah, exactly.
it fits the 80s better because the 80s had a little bit of an innocence to them.
Yeah, because I think like at its core, there's also a message about
Consumerism.
consumerism.
Yeah, and the buying pressure during Christmas.
Yeah, so it really wouldn't work today. And plus, I wouldn't trust them to do it today without inserting some type of sociopolitical message in it.
Yeah. And holy shit, you know, the love interest when she tells the story about her dad, that one's dark as shit.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah. I think they make a bit of fun about that in the second one.
Mm-hmm.
Like she's about to tell another dark story or something.
Yeah, they did that as more of like a joke. Like where he's like, you know, don't mention Lincoln.
Yeah.
And like and he's like, honey, no, and he just walks her off.
Yeah.
Like, no, like we're not going to do that again.
Yeah, but you know, this is one of those movies that are so fucking rewatchable.
Yeah.
You know, it has that thing, and definitely a movie to watch with a bunch of friends.
Yeah.
You know, you'd get a big pizza or something, and watch it in a friend's basement, something like that. And Tommy and the Guinea Pig Collective.
Mm-hmm.
He's a huge figure collector. I think
Yeah.
he has all the Gremlins now by NECA.
At some point I do want to collect those. I particularly want the Christmas Carol, the caroling Gremlins.
I think
decorations.
he might have those.
And yes, I remember Howie Mandel. Yes, is the voice of Gizmo. Frank Welker, voice of Stripe, and you have Judge Reinhold and Phoebe Cates, who were also in Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
Frank Welker, that's Megatron.
Yes.
Whom they didn't put in the Transformers movies.
Which is
they had
why.
Hugo Weaving voicing Megatron.
I mean, I like Hugo Weaving, but like Frank Welker's right there.
Yeah, I mean, they had Peter Cullen as Optimus Prime.
Yeah.
Seriously, just.
Yeah, there's some Gremlin stuff on my throne. I did add a few new things, but there's at least one Gremlins figure that's still on my throne list.
Yeah. Anyway, timeless. It should be left alone, I think.
Definitely should be should definitely be left alone. And I don't know if you've seen this fake poster going around where it's like if they did a third Gremlins movie, have it be like on a flight, and I'm like, that wouldn't work.
No,
because the flight would be crossing time zones.
Oh, that too.
Depending on which way it's going, and it just doesn't really work.
Maybe at a ski resort.
Maybe in Alaska, when because it gets dark early there.
Yeah, I don't know.
Have it be like 30 Days of Night Gremlins edition.
Yeah, something like that. or on a cruise ship. No, they would be crossing time zones too. But yeah anyway, it should be left alone as it is. Same as quite a few of the 80s movies. Just leave it alone. They got it right the first time.
Yeah.
Anyway, that was my number 7.
30 Days of Mogwai, yes. Or in Vegas, that could work too. But yeah, leave it alone. Don't touch it. But anyway, my number 7 is a mockumentary.
Oh, that one.
Yep, it's a mockumentary starring Michael McCain, Christopher Guest, Harry Shearer, Rob Reiner as the documentarian. You have actors that people know nowadays in small roles, such as Fran Drescher, Dana Carvey, Billy Crystal, and so forth. And this is Spinal Tap. And what I love about this movie is most times you watch a documentary, it kind of charters the rise or the peak in popularity of a certain band, whatever the documentary is focusing on. This one, pretty much, you see the slow, painful decline of the band known as Spinal Tap. To the point, at the end of the film, they are second billing to a puppet show or something like that. They are second billing to puppets. Yes, the Stonehenge sequence, because Christopher Guest's character Nigel Tufnell accidentally writes inches, the marker for inches instead of feet. So they created like this miniature Stonehenge, and so they had dwarves dancing around it, and it was just so. There's like things like that that happen to these guys, and I love Michael McCann's line where it's like Stonehenge that was in danger of being crushed by a dwarf. Yeah, so it's like basically like so many quotes. This goes to 11. Yeah, A Mighty Wind is actually decent. Mighty Wind is actually decent. I would say the trifecta of the mockumentaries under Christopher Guest is Spinal Tap, Waiting for Guffman, and Best in Show. But A Mighty Wind is a close fourth in my opinion. It's enjoyable. But like they united. Well, at least Michael McKean was in Best in Show. I guess Harry Shearer wasn't in that. Because there were like two. There was Best in Show had Michael McKean and Christopher Guest, and then Harry Shearer came back for A Mighty Wind, and then Harry Shearer also came back for For Your Consideration, which was okay. Yeah, that's so many quotable lines. Except to what, he died choking on vomit, but it wasn't his vomit. And it's like, ugh.
Yeah, how much more black could this be? The answer is none. None more black.
Yeah, it's like they're trying to be as positive as they can, because the album is all like the cover is all black.
Yeah.
Because they wouldn't show because they thought it was, like, the original cover was too sexist. Or not the band, but like basically the music execs, because it basically had a woman on all fours and someone like a man like holding a glove under her nose, like smell the glove. That's the name of the album. Like, oh, that's too sexist. We gotta change it. And what do? They make it entirely black. Yeah, they can't. That is like that. I believe that's the event that happened actually to Black Sabbath, where they got lost trying to get to the stage. So, but I love that part. Like I said, Fran Drescher's in it. Billy Crystal and Dave Carvey have or Dana Carvey have like small parts in this film. Rob Reiner is he's the documentarian. Like, personally, he's a little bit of an ass, but he's good in this film. Like, this movie's good. Yeah. So, but there it is. This is Spinal Tap. If you have not seen it and you kind of like mockumentaries, I highly recommend this one. Yeah, that is my number 7. This is Spinal Tap. We're on number 6. Are you talking?
Yeah, your turn.
Okay. Oh, I couldn't tell if you were talking or not because I saw the flicker. But it was like, my number 6. Basically, a film with a Cold War focus, with a premise a lot more fucking plausible in terms of invasion on U.S. territory than the fucking remake, or was it White House Down or whatever? The one with Gerard Butler, pretty much, where somehow the Koreans get all the way over the fucking east side of the states.
No, it's Chris Hemsworth.
What?
I think Chris Hemsworth was in the remake.
Yes, he's in the remake. Remake doesn't exist, in my opinion. Olympus Has Fallen. Okay, Olympus Has Fallen. Yeah, the one with Gerard Butler, I believe. Like, somehow the North Koreans get all the fucking way with some technology to the east side of the states, and North Korea could barely invade Japan. So there's no fucking way that they'd be able to invade the United States, let alone even get to the western coast of the United States. So we're led to believe it was originally supposed to be China as the invaders in the remake, but the Chi-Coms, they control basically at least a third of Hollywood. So they got pissy, and the studio made them change it to North Korea. And at least the people who were writing the script were like, well, fuck, this is not believable at all, because North Korea couldn't invade the U.S., so they had Russia, so like basically be part of it, helping the North Koreans invade the United States, which is essentially how it goes in the original. However, it's more believable, like having the invasion stem from Cuba, because it's closer to the U.S., versus North Korea. Because there are Russians in the original Red Dawn, but their staging ground of Cuba to invade the U.S. is a lot more plausible than North Korea. Like, North Korea as a staging ground, right? And it happens in a small town. Basically, they hit hard and fast. Just literally, basically, catch the U.S. off guard. And it basically comes down to a literal group of high schoolers, a ragtag group of high schoolers who band together. Essentially, they escape together and they band together to create a resistance to the occupation of the Cuban and Russian Soviet Union forces. Right? Yeah, Cuban General Superfly, yes. All right? And it basically had the essentially who's who in terms of cast amongst the high schoolers of who were big amongst, I guess, the younger generation crowd. Where you have Charlie Sheen, obviously, Patrick Swayze, C. Thomas Howell, Jennifer Grey is in it. She and Patrick Swayze would later film Dirty Dancing. Why am I blanking on the actress's name who played the mother in Back to the Future?
I'm blanking too.
I am blanking on that actress's name, but she's in the original Red Dawn. Because basically it's this like group of high school. Well, Patrick Swayze's character, he's out of high school. Basically, he's the older brother of Charlie Sheen's character. But it's basically high school teenage boys who, no, not her. Leah Thompson. Thank you, Terry Crystal. Leah Thompson is in it. Basically, and then they take on Jennifer Grey and Leah Thompson's character, who are sisters, because they felt like the girls' grandparents, I believe, felt that they couldn't protect them, keep them safe, so they had them go off with Patrick Swayze and the group. So yeah, so but yeah, so it's an action film. All right, to warn you, it's not exactly an upper. When I say it's not exactly an upper, I mean it's don't exactly get too close to some of these characters. But it is very good. There's actually a really emotional scene. A few emotional scenes, but there's a really deep emotional scene that happens where I think you see some of some of the best acting from Patrick Swayze. Yeah, it's very dark.
Isn't it the same director as Conan the Barbarian?
I'd have to look it up, so I can't say for sure.
Is it John Milius?
So yeah. So he did Conan. Yeah, so it's John Milius. Yeah. One of the Soviets actually was speaking Russian. He was actually fluent in Russian. He himself wasn't, but he was fluent in Russian. So when he's talking, he knew the translation and everything for the dialogue. So it's not like he had to learn it for those scenes or anything. He was actually fluent in it, I believe. It's the one that comes in when the Cubans are having a difficulty with the resistance. And yeah, so I was reading trivia about that, and he's actually fluent in that language. Yeah, I'm saying it's not an upper. It's not an upper, so I'm don't expect to get close to a lot of these characters. Yeah, the remake had a forgettable cast. And what I got a kick out of was the fact that the North Koreans pretty much dropped an EMP. So for those who do not know what an EMP is, electromagnetic pulse, which would knock out anything that used electronics, and that includes car engines. Like cars nowadays. And that would include phones, computers. So Joshua Peck's character would not be able to turn his phone on to look at the picture of his girlfriend. So they couldn't even get that right. So, if not shielded, yeah, but his phone was not shielded. But yet he was still able to turn it on just to look at her picture.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, Red Dawn, number 6.
Yeah. That's actually another one I haven't seen. I've only seen the remake.
You need to watch the original. Remake.
Yeah.
Original, far superior, in my opinion, to the remake.
I don't remember too much about the remake. I think I watched it when it came out.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it. And, Red Dawn is I've been meaning to watch it, but never got around to it. So, anyway, well, that's great though, because it's new content, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, I have Dune and Red Dawn to look forward to.
Yes, you do. All right, number 5.
No, I haven't done number 6.
Oh, sorry. You're number 6. Sorry.
Yeah, I think my number 6 is also one you have, to be honest. Karate Kid.
Nope, it's not on my list.
Really? Okay. Well, I have Karate Kid on my list. Currently being honored perfectly by Cobra Kai.
Mm-hmm.
They're nailing it. But Karate Kid, new kid moves into an area in LA. It's in the valley, isn't it? Reseda. Is that it?
I believe
I don't
so.
know. But yeah, karate championship is happening. He runs into trouble at school with Johnny Lawrence and the Cobra Kai's, which, to be fair, Daniel is to blame for some of it, isn't he?
Well, they did, someone did a very good video kind of pointing out that Daniel's actually kind of a bully.
Yeah. Because Daniel has a bit of a temper.
Yeah.
He has a serious temper. And it flares up in Cobra Kai sometimes too.
Yeah.
I think they even point it out. I think his wife points it out.
Mm-hmm.
That he loses all track of reason when he gets pissed. But he runs into Mr. Miyagi, played perfectly by Pat Morita.
Yes.
Who I believe was a stand-up comedian or something at the time.
I don't know about stand-up comedian. I know he was on, was it Hogan's Heroes?
Yeah. But,
I know he did TV.
But an excellent teen movie, I think.
Yeah, I'd say.
Because that would be the target audience. Great acting. The fighting's very good. Great soundtrack. And it has a date montage, doesn't it? Which is, common in 80s movies. It reeks of the 80s, seriously.
Mm-hmm. Definitely does.
And it should be left alone. It should not be remade, and yet they did.
Yeah, well, they remade it, the Karate Kid movie, but they fucking taught Kung Fu in it.
Yeah, which isn't the same.
No, it's not. You call the movie Karate Kid, but you teach Kung Fu.
It's like having someone, teach cricket to the soccer kid.
Yes.
But yeah, Karate Kid, kind of like Gremlins. You can watch it over and over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
It's basically built to last, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, because they actually, plot characters you like.
Yeah.
It focused on the story versus an agenda. So basically, the characters and the story itself become memorable versus, okay, what's the story here? I can't tell because of all the political messaging.
Exactly. I actually bought the Karate Kid trilogy on Blu-ray a couple of weeks ago because I've been trying to collect physical media.
Yeah.
So my latest purchases have been Police Academy box and Karate Kid trilogy.
Mhm. Oh yeah, the change it from wax on, wax off to jacket on, jacket off. I'm like, oh my god.
He's telling the kid to whack off in his
Oh
yard.
god. Anyway,
Karate Kid's my number 6. I don't think there's too much to talk about it because everyone knows it. You know.
yeah. Yeah, jacket off pretty much. Jacket on, jacket off. It's I don't. The only reason I remember anything from that new Karate Kid movie, the one with Jaden Smith and Jackie Chan, is that Jackie Chan beat up a bunch of kids.
Oh,
But anyway, number 5.
yeah, it's my turn.
Yes.
I think.
Yep.
Well, I have another movie I had recorded on VHS from TV because I thought it was Indiana Jones-ish. It was a little bit, but it's Romancing the Stone with Kathleen
Alright.
Turner and Michael Douglas and Danny DeVito, who also all of them did a sequel to this, and they also did War of the Roses together, which is a dark comedy later on.
I think you're thinking about next Karate Kid. Just to answer that question. Yeah, but go ahead. Romancing the Stone.
Yeah. Basically, the sister of a famous writer gets kidnapped due to some stuff. Her husband got killed, and there was some kind of stuff happening with Colombian gangsters. The sister's played by the shrink from Lethal Weapon.
Okay.
Yeah, so she had a knack for being in very entertaining stuff. Anyway, Kathleen Turner has to go down there and deliver a package that was sent to her by the sister, which contains a map to a treasure, big red diamond. And she teams up with Michael Douglas, who's down there doing a little bit of shady work. He's a bit of a adventurer, maybe. And Danny DeVito is trying to get him and his brother is trying to get the map as well. So you have the Colombian corrupt military, gangsters, and Kathleen Turner and Michael Douglas. Romance, comedy, action movie, I'd say. Great chemistry between all of them. Fun action. And it has that, Indiana Jones National Treasure-ish feel to it, now and again at least. Great soundtrack. Have you seen it?
I think I have years ago. I just remember a scene where Michael Douglas is telling Kathleen Turner, "If we like something like if we get out of this alive, I'm going to kill you."
Yeah, that happens in it.
But it's been like a long time.
Yeah, the sequel wasn't that good, but this one's great. I'd give it an 8 out of 10.
So okay, well I mean,
Yeah.
I'd have
Worth
to
a
like
watch if
yeah.
if you don't have anything to do one evening or something. You could do a lot worse than this one.
Yeah. So, but I'd have to definitely go back and rewatch it because that's the only thing that I remember.
Trey hasn't seen it. Well, add it to your list, Trey. I think you'd love it. It's a proper MacGuffin movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, is that it? Before I
Yeah.
didn't want to cut you off, but
No, it's
but
fine.
speaking of Indiana Jones, because you brought that name up, my number 5 is the second movie that came out as part of the original Indiana Jones trilogy, even though this movie is actually set before the events of Raiders of the Lost Ark and Last Crusade.
That one's my number 3.
Yep. So Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. I'm just going to talk about it a little bit since Steve will be talking about it more when we get to the number 3. But basically, long story short, Indiana Jones has to get away from these Chinese thugs. Technically kidnaps Willie Scott, who's an entertainer. You have Short Round, played by Ke I can't pronounce his name, but Short Round. All right, they don't realize that the plane is being flown by those close to the Chinese thugs. So at some point they have to bail out, and they bail out over India, and are swept up in a plot that involved kidnapping all the children of this village, Kalima, thuggies, rituals involving getting your heart ripped out, romance, and so forth. And to this day, gets SJW's panties in a twist over what claims of what they consider racist in this movie, particularly the portrayal of the thuggies. Even though we were to ask those of Indian descent who like lived in India at the time that thuggies are an actual fucking threat.
Also, hence the name Thug.
Yes, like they are legit. Like they were legitimate threats.
I actually have the Commodore 64 game for this movie.
Yeah, but they would accuse them of being stereotypes, and I'm like, no, they are real.
Yeah.
All right, but basically, what was stolen from this village are the Shankara stones, right? And the legend is, if like when they're next to each other, the diamonds inside will glow. And the thuggies not only kidnapped the children, but they stole the stone that the village had because they wanted to include it with the ones they have, and they are forcing these children to mine to look for the other stones.
You know what's kind of fun? At the end of this movie, Indiana Jones admits that, yeah, I believe in magic.
Yeah.
Because he saw it work. Then fast forward to the one that came out last year, Indiana Jones keeps telling people that he doesn't believe in magic. Like,
Yeah, I know.
Well, you did in the second movie.
Yes. Yeah, because he tells the village leader, "I understand its power now."
Yeah.
And like this is like Indiana Jones was also like witnessing man getting his heart ripped out and still be alive.
Yeah.
So yeah, Short Round actor was in the Goonies the following year, and it was actually a really sweet moment caught on camera where the actor who plays Short Round and Harrison Ford at was it the Oscars last year or one of the award ceremonies, I believe last year. They hugged.
Yeah, because Shorty got an Oscar.
Yeah. It's actually a really sweet moment.
Before Harrison Ford.
So. Which, I mean, I didn't see the movie that he was nominated for, so I couldn't say if he deserved it or not, but I thought it was really sweet. Hey Conroy. But yeah, so Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. That is like a movie that I said, as I said, still like gets SJW's panties in a twist, claiming it's racist, and I'm like, nope, it's not. It's actually, yes, it's fantastical, but it's pretty fucking accurate too.
Yeah, and it's also the dinner scene that they don't like, which was by design over the top to gross people out.
Yes, that was by design.
If it was set in somewhere in some other country, they would have had the same disgusting stuff in the movie.
Yeah. Yeah, that everything everywhere all at once. So yeah. But yeah, but that was my number 5, Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom.
Okay. Well, you're supposed to do 4 then.
Yep, my number 4 is a film that, while not historically accurate, really at all, it is brilliantly filmed, brilliantly acted, wonderful cinematography. In my opinion, just engages you from beginning to end, and it's narrated essentially by F. Murray Abraham's character. He plays Salieri, who is portrayed in this film as an opponent of sorts to Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart. And the movie I'm talking about is Amadeus. 1984, F. Murray Abraham plays Salieri. Tom Hulce plays Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart. You have Jeffrey Jones in the cast. Who plays the Emperor. And like I said, do not get your history from Hollywood. Do not get it at all, because it like very much takes liberties with events that play out in Amadeus's life. But the compositions are brilliant. The performances are brilliant. I mean, F. Murray Abraham is superb as Salieri. Like, I would say just fucking superb as Salieri.
Should have had a bigger career.
Yes. And so he's kind of portrayed as I guess an antagonist of sorts to Mozart, when in fact, actually in history, Salieri actually taught, I think, 2 of Mozart's children. So they were kind of competitive. But, obviously you would be competitive back then because you didn't want to be because it's not easy earning money as a composer back then. But they certainly weren't rivals, really, in any, from what I've read about, anything, pretty much. So, but still, Trey said he hasn't watched it. Find a copy of Amadeus and watch it.
You know, it's kind of fun that both of them were composers, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But currently, they're both decomposing.
Oh, shut up. Yeah, the funniest thing about Last Action Hero, don't trust him. He killed Mozart. Technically. But yeah, if you have not seen this movie, I highly recommend it. Do not watch it as if it's historically accurate. Just watch it purely for entertainment value.
I think it's one of Teresa's favorite movies.
Yes, I love Amadeus. But yeah, that's without going into details, pretty much, because it basically follows the life of Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart and his kind of decline. Because Mozart himself died at a very young age. I was only in his 30s, I believe. If that. But it's told from the perspective of F. Murray Abraham's character, Salieri. Well, I mean, a bit more historically accurate than 300, but kind of like that. Just watch it for entertainment. I enjoy the Amadeus song. Yeah. But yeah, so Amadeus from 1984. That's my number 4.
Well, my number 4 is one of my favorite movies when I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
I have no idea how many times I've watched this movie. According to SJWs today, I'm not supposed to like it, though, because I can't identify with it. And it's Beverly Hills Cop.
There you go.
I mean, Eddie Murphy could do no wrong in the 80s. He was on a roll. And this was one of his better ones. And wisecracking cop from Detroit has to go to Beverly Hills to track down the guy who killed his friend. Turns out it's the villain from Rambo 2. Played by the great Steven Berkoff, who looks plain evil, but is probably a nice guy.
Mm-hmm.
Judge Reynolds is in it. And what's his name? The guy who plays Bogomil.
Plays who?
Who plays Bogomil, the chief cop. The villain from RoboCop. Plays Dick Jones, RoboCop.
I'm blanking on his name.
Yeah. Anyway, lots of famous faces in there.
Mm-hmm.
Superb soundtrack. Insanely 80s. Should be left alone. They should never remake this one. The reason it was made, it was written for Stallone. And Stallone dropped out or something like that. And they used what was supposed to be the Beverly Hills Cop script in a way for Cobra. So Cobra is the leftover original Beverly Hills Cop with Stallone. I think they even make a poke at it in Beverly Hills Cop 2 when George Reynolds' character has a Cobra poster in his apartment. But anyway, Beverly Hills Cop, almost it's not, I'd say a 9 out of 10. One of those insanely rewatchable movies. Lots of fun. And I'll tell you one thing, the banana in the tailpipe works. Because I've tested it.
I believe you have.
Yes. However, don't peel the banana first, because a friend of mine did that. It stopped the car for a while, and then the banana melted.
Yeah.
And they thought there was something seriously wrong with the car because goo was coming out of the tailpipe, which was fun to watch from a distance, hiding behind a store. Anyway, so yeah, banana in the tailpipe works. Anyway, my number 4 was Beverly Hills Cop.
Okay. So we're on number 3.
Yeah, Temple of Doom.
All right. Okay.
Yeah, I'm just gonna. I have nothing more to add to it. Well, it was actually the third Indiana Jones movie I watched. I watched 1, 3, and 2 because
I want to say I think Temple of Doom was the first one I watched.
I didn't have access to it.
Then they showed me Raiders of the Lost Ark.
I had to take a ferry to the city I live in now and search other video rental places for it.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually watched it because I had a friend of mine was, sleeping over when we were kids.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the same friend that I watched Rhinestone with when I had a sleepover with him. So kind of fun. And I was always also the best man at his wedding. So long time friendship.
Yes. All right.
Well, Jaluk, the tailpipe thing. I was like 12 when I tried it. It's not something I do now. So I was, 12 and
Yeah.
And I'd seen it in the movie and I wanted to try it. So
anyway,
I wouldn't do it now. Well,
all
maybe. Right. I don't know.
My number 3 is it's a cat and mouse movie with the mouse being 2 people, all right, and the cat being a Terminator sent from the future.
That's my number 1.
Well, it's my number 3.
That one takes place on my birthday.
Yes, it's the Terminator. All right?
Yeah.
The Terminator is sent back to kill Sarah Connor because Sarah Connor gives birth to the future resistance leader, John Carter. That goes against the Skynets and the Terminators. So John Connor sends Kyle Reese back on Stieg's birthday, essentially.
Yeah.
To
save the world.
Protect his mom from the Terminator.
Stieg trivia for you people.
Yes. And the plot itself is very simple. Like I said, it's a cat and mouse plot, pretty much. The Terminator is sent back. And he doesn't know where Sarah Connor lives. He just has a name. So he has to track down John Connor's mother and terminate her. So he's being targeted for termination, pretty much. And Kyle Reese, as I said, is sent back from the same period to protect Sarah Connor. And I'm really not sure how this works in terms of time travel, since Kyle Reese's that character is born after John Connor, but Kyle Reese ends up being John Connor's father. So riddle me that. Right? With time travel. I don't know, but somehow...
Well, he retroactively shags her.
Yeah, but John Connor was born before Kyle Reese.
Yeah.
So who sent Kyle Reese back the first time?
John Connor did. Adult John Connor sent adult Kyle Reese back.
I'm just saying.
Now it makes sense.
And why would he send Kyle Reese back if he didn't know who his father was?
He does know.
I think it's implied that he didn't know.
No, she says it at the end. When she's recording those things, she's saying that, should I tell you about your father, or will that affect your decision to send him back?
Yeah, like she made those recordings, but the second one on, John Connor didn't give a shit about those recordings.
So he hadn't gotten them yet.
It was more for her benefit. It was more for hers. Than
Yeah,
him.
but he hadn't gotten the tapes in the second one.
He hadn't even gotten them in the third one either.
No, he gets them in the future.
How? He's dead. No, she's dead.
Yeah, probably found something she left for him when she died.
I'm saying,
or
like, you're
something.
writing this it's like.
Well, why would she give him the recordings if she's there with him?
Wait. No, I'm saying it's like, I thought like they implied that they're more for her benefit.
Yes, but he obviously found it at some point, probably after she died.
She's dead by the third one. And John Connor's pretty much.
Well, keep in mind the third one doesn't really fit.
But you have to include it. So it doesn't make any
Well,
sense.
You can't include it when 1 and 2 were written as a finished story.
So. I still
Anyway.
say it had to start, basically, the birth had to start somewhere. Which means John Connor had to live his life. And then somehow send his father back.
Yeah.
It doesn't work.
Well, John Connor wasn't dead or near the end of his life.
What do you mean? What the fuck does that mean?
Kyle Reese is born in the 90s, I think. No.
Yeah. Was well after John Connor.
Yeah. And then he meets him when they're both adults.
Yeah, but Kyle is his father.
Yeah.
I'm saying.
Kyle doesn't know it.
It's had to start somewhere.
No,
Meaning.
it's a loop.
The loop starts somewhere, which makes it make not sense. It doesn't make sense.
Well, Kyle says it's one possible time or one
Oh my
possible
God.
future.
It's the only future because he gives birth to John Connor.
Well, Kyle says it's a possible future because it can be changed.
Obviously it can't because he gives birth to John Connor.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean Skynet will happen. She can still give birth to John Connor, but that doesn't mean the future John is in when he sends Kyle back is the future that will happen after they fuck up Skynet and stuff in Terminator 2.
Mm-hmm. Which means since it looked like they did do stop Skynet in 2, that would mean John Connor would never have any reason to send Kyle Reese back. So how would that explain John Connor still being born?
Because it was sent from that future before it
Yeah,
got
that future
canceled.
never happens.
No,
If
but
the timeline gets changed and that future never happens,
yeah,
John Connor and Kyle Reese would never meet, which
Yeah,
means he
but
would never send Kyle Reese back. So it means John Connor would never be born.
but John was conceived when that future was absolutely going to happen. So they broke the timeline.
So
He's not going to just
all right,
vanish.
but we gotta stop. We gotta stop because this is just no. Anyway, I still enjoy it despite that.
Oh, I
Anyway.
love it.
Yes, but it's my number 3, Terminator.
Yeah, that's my number 1. Watched it 50 times, I think. Probably more. I don't know. I like it better than 2, even though 2 is probably a better movie.
PlayStation team is crazy. All right, so but that's my number 3, the Terminator.
Well, you have to do number 2 then.
Okay, my number 2 you already mentioned. Gremlins. So, I grew up in a time when my parents didn't care that it was like I was really young at the time that I was watching it. They just basically popped it like the VHS players pretty much, or on TV, basically played it for me. There was like a short period of time where I would not watch Gremlins when I was younger for a while, and that was because when I was really young, I'm still in elementary school. When I was really young, I had a nightmare involving Gremlins, and I woke up, expecting, seeing I was in my room. Oh, it was just a dream and everything. And then I look over on my wall, and I forgot I had a dress hanging up, and the light from the moon shone into the window at the perfect angle, and made it look like a little creature with big ears. So I flipped the fuck out. So I kind of bumped it down to the second because of that. Because there was that stretch where I wouldn't watch it because of that nightmare. However, as we mentioned, it's a perfect blend of horror and dark comedy. Basically, this Billy is given a gift by his father of a creature called a Mogwai. You have rules associated with it. The third rule does not make any sense, but it is what it is. Basically, hates bright lights, especially sunlight will kill them. Don't get it wet, and don't feed it after midnight. That rule doesn't make any sense because it's always midnight somewhere, and, well, what about daylight savings time? What about time zone? Which they poke fun of in the second movie. However, that rule notwithstanding, what could go wrong does go wrong, pretty much. It's a commentary on consumerism and things like that, where the Mogwai he's given, named Gizmo, gets wet. He multiplies, but those duplicates, little Mogwai duplicates, are not good, as Gizmo is. They are the evil side of the Mogwai, and then when they eat after midnight, they turn into more their reptilian looks. And Frank Welker, as mentioned, did the voice of Stripe. He's the lead gremlin when they turn into basically the reptilian evil versions. And Howie Mandel versus Gizmo. And it's up to Billy and Gizmo and Kate, who becomes Billy's girlfriend, to essentially save his small town from the gremlins, because Stripe multiplies by jumping into a pool. But it's a dark comedy, so it's there's funny parts in the bar, as well as the gremlins realizing that the sun's about to come up shortly, so they're going to all congregate in one location, and that's the movie theater, where they played Disney's Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs and love it. So, but yeah, that is my number 2, Gremlins.
You know what? Gremlins is best on VHS. Nightmare on Elm Street too.
Mm-hmm.
Because the more gritty image adds to it.
A little bit. I watched it first with VHS, so
if you're watching them on Blu-ray, you see things way too clearly, which doesn't benefit those movies, in my opinion.
Well, then, you catch the goofs a little bit easier too, because there's some goofs in it.
Yeah, but having them be more grainy adds to it.
Yeah, I said one of the best fourth wall breaks. Yeah. Yeah. Also makes bad effects more noticeable.
Yeah. It's
for example, one of my favorite movies is Wizard of Oz from 1939. It's one of my favorite. It's still my favorite movie, but I watched it a lot when I was younger, when I was a kid. And I watched it on Blu-ray, and holy shit, could you tell it was a painting? That they were like that gives backgrounds for paintings and things like that. Whereas the graininess of the VHS, it's it's you know deep down, it's not real, Like it's like they're not actually getting lost, but like it's still believable.
Yeah. Blu-ray doesn't make everything better.
No. So, but yeah, so Gremlins is my number 2. It's really not
My number
plot, so yeah.
Well, my number 2, I think, is your number 1. It's Ghostbusters.
Yeah, that's my number 1.
Yeah, I thought as much. Which means I was right. We had 5 crossovers. Anyway, do you want to yap about Ghostbusters? Since you have it as number 1?
What's your number 1?
Terminator.
Okay, well, I'll yap about Ghostbusters and you yap about Terminator.
Yeah.
Well, I had to put Ghostbusters as my number 1 because if it's on, I will sit down and watch the movie pretty much because I love Harold Ramis. Literally came in and saved the movie from what it was originally going to be. If you read the trivia on what they originally it was originally going to be, it's completely different. And I don't believe would have worked. I personally believe would not have worked. Harold Ramis came in and essentially saved the first Ghostbusters. So we have him to thank for the product we got. So basically, Peter Venkman, Raymond Stanton, Egon Spengler all work for this college and all work for basically the parapsychology, basically departments, essentially. And all 3 of them are kicked off campus because they're not producing, results. Right? Because Ray Stanton and Egon Spengler are also dedicating most of their free time to studying the paranormal, meaning ghosts and strange occurrences, to include the infamous ghost scene in the library, the face of which was originally going to be the bat face we see in Fright Night, and I'll talk about it again when we talk about top movies of 1985. But the bat face you see on Jerry Dandridge when he changes from a human to a bat was the original face that was going to show on the library ghost at the beginning, but they thought it was too much horror for the overarching basically tone of the movie. So they removed that, changed the face, and recycled that face, the original face, for Fright Night later on. You also had the most memorable lines. What about the Twinkie? I collect molds, spores, and fungus. I collect spores, molds, and fungus. Ghostbusters, what do you want? Are you the key master? Basically, so that's where basically the catalyst is, and that is what happens in Sigourney Weaver's character's apartment, where she opens her fridge and she sees this temple and everything, and one of the creatures says Zool, and which takes her to the Ghostbusters, who are the 3. Venkman, Stanton, and Egon, who've since been kicked out of the college and gone into business for themselves, creating a company called Ghostbusters, where they investigate supernatural occurrences. You have Rick Moranis, who originally was John Candy was considered, and would not have worked because he wanted to do some things that the others were like, no, we can't do that. So he left, and the role went to Rick Moranis, who was also on SCTV. Harold Ramis was on SCTV also. So you have 2 SCTV alums tied to this project, Harold Ramis and Rick Moranis. And then you have SNL alums. Dan Aykroyd, he was on SNL, right? And Bill Murray, he was on SNL too. So you have kind of 2 and 2, SCTV and SNL. So yeah, and I'm not going to go into details. I think pretty sure most people who have seen this movie in the chat have seen this movie. How the hell is she getting one of the best comedies of all time? I was literally watching a documentary about that, and she talked about that. I forget how she ended up with the role. I remember Ernie Hudson. I remember him perfectly in the documentary because he was nearly not cast as Winston Zeddemore because he had just done Space Hunter, and he kept trying his damnedest to get just an audition to play Winston Zeddemore, or just any role pretty much in this movie. But he was trying to get an audition, and for the longest time they refused. They refused just to give him an audition because they assumed he would play the role much like he did the Washington character in Space Hunter. Until finally they allowed him to come in for an audition, and guess fucking what? He was the best one who auditioned. And he got the part. But he nearly lost that role because the studio assumed he would play the role the same as he did in Space Hunter. Yeah, and Space Hunter was also produced by Ivan Reitman as well. So, yeah, Hollywood has always been that. And it was hilarious because Rick Moranis is only 5'6" and Sigourney Weaver's like 5'10", and he's hitting on her. Yeah, well, and William Atherton, who plays Walter Peck, is like the perfect antagonist. Works for the EPA. He's very much a dick, even though he's called Dickless.
He's confirmed for the next Ghostbuster movie. He's become a mayor.
Yeah. So I don't know if I'm going to see the next Ghostbusters movie in theaters. I think I'm going to kind of sail the high seas initially for it, and if it's good, then I'll watch it in theaters.
You know what I think's going to happen?
Mm-hmm.
He's going to redeem himself, and Bill Murray's going to say, "Yes, you do have a dick."
Oh God.
Something like I think so.
That better not happen. But yeah, that's my number one, Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
Works better the way it is. It's a comedy, but it's a believably set within reality. So that's my number one.
Yeah, it's basically ghosts from a scientific point of view, more or less.
More or less.
Yeah.
And then you have the fantastical with Zool and Gozer.
I actually have an original Ghostbusters video game from back then. It's on a cassette tape. One of the first video games I ever played. And it's actually still quite good.
I have somewhere I still have my Stay Puft Marshmallow figure. Like I'm saying, like an actual figure, not like a stuffed toy or anything.
Yeah, the real Ghostbusters action figure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I have that one. I gave it away to one of my nephews. Damn it! It would have looked so good on my shelf.
Yep, I'm not doing anything like that. I love my niece, but I'm not doing anything like that.
Yeah, fuck.
Yep.
It would have looked so good on my movie shelf. Anyway. Well, my number one is Terminator. Watched it all through when I was a kid. Still not tired of it. I actually watched it a couple of weeks ago again. It's one of the movies I watch every year, pretty much. And I'm not tiring of it at all. But you talked about it earlier, so there's not too much else to say.
I think it's a good action movie. It's like a very good cat and mouse.
Yeah.
Movie.
Every time Sarah Connor trusts a machine early on in the movie, it backfires on her. Because the answering machine, and when she calls her mom.
Yeah.
So whenever she's communicating with a machine, it does harm to her.
Pretty much.
Yeah, Trey's right. The soundtrack is underrated.
I think, like, for the most part, all 80s movies have, well, maybe not all, but most of them have even if they aren't like stellar like film classics, they all have epic scores. Like Space Hunter, for example, objectively not that good. I'll admit it. Even though I love the movie, it's objectively not that good. But holy shit, does it have one of the most epic opening scores by Elmer Bernstein. You listen to that score and you're expecting to be like on an epic adventure.
Yeah. They made music to hook you rather
Yeah.
than to look how artsy we are.
Yeah. Yeah. So like it actually
Blue
gets you
Thunder
engaged
as well.
just as much as the dialogue.
It's like the movies had a theme song almost.
Yeah.
Uh, Blue Thunder had that too. That was, I think I had it on the top 10 last time for 83.
Kay, that's like why I appreciate older films, like before they heavily relied on gore, because the human imagination can come up with a lot worse than what studio can visually show you on screen.
Yeah. Sometimes less is more.
Yeah. So that's why I appreciate the older films, because they yes, you did not see everything that happened, but you could picture everything that happened, and it was not pretty.
Yeah, it's why people are afraid of the dark, because they don't know what's there and they're imagining what might be there.
Hmm.
You know, in Jaws,
Hmm.
probably the scariest scene is the scene with the dock,
Yeah.
because you know the shark's under the dock.
Hmm.
You know, it turns and goes after the guy.
Yeah,
Once
like I
you
said, it
see the
feels like
shark,
you don't see the shark for most of the movie.
yeah. Once you see the shark, it's not that scary because you know what it looks like.
Hmm.
You know, but that
It's
scene,
still intense, but when you don't see it, it's like is it there?
yeah.
Like you don't know.
Same with the alien. You know it might be around the next corner, right?
Yeah.
All the time. That's
Yeah.
that's way more tense than when you actually see it.
Yeah. That's why I said that's why I like the older movies. I do like I my the genre I gravitate to the most is the horror movie genre, and there are still movies I watch that does have quite a bit of gore in it, but I prefer the ones where you don't see a
Yeah.
lot. So because again, like the human imagination can come up with a lot far worse than anything Hollywood could produce.
Yeah.
So
The
but anyway, those are our top
the horror genre is probably the genre that's the most difficult to do well.
I don't. Maybe yes, but I think they make it way more difficult than it has to be.
Yeah, because horror movies are pouring out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
Hell
they
of a lot.
rely far too heavily. Well, they rely far too heavily on jump scares.
Yeah, jump scares and gore.
And while jump scares themselves aren't bad, it's the way they're used makes them cringe.
Yeah.
Because jump scare without any apprehension buildup is just a loud noise make you jump sort of situation. But if it's just jump scare that follows like an actual buildup of tense, apprehension, atmosphere, it could work.
Yeah.
But they don't do that. They just jump scare here, get them to jump out of their seats with a loud noise or an obvious look over here, don't pay attention to what's over here on the other side of the screen approach.
I saw someone had done some research
Mm-hmm.
on moviegoers, and they were showing the young people in the cinema as they were watching a horror movie. They were basically filming them in the dark,
Hmm.
and when there weren't any jump scares, they were looking at their phones.
Yeah, because they're not being engaged. That's
Yeah,
why you
yeah,
need that proper build up.
yeah. But for fuck's sake, though, it says a lot about the young generation too.
Well, I do it too sometimes if the movie doesn't draw me in. I'll look at my phone. Okay, like I'm like, there's nothing is engaging me in this movie.
Yeah, but this was one of the better movies actually that they were
Well,
showing.
which one was it?
Uh can't remember now, but it was maybe it was one of the maybe it was The Conjuring 2 or something. I don't know, but yeah, they were actually sitting and watching their phones from the get go.
I don't. I have to look that up because I mean, Conjuring 2 is good. I just don't think it was that, but I don't know.
I don't know what it was, but I
Yeah,
saw
Talk to Me was good.
that one.
Talk to Me is very good. Does not need a sequel, but they're doing one anyway.
I like Megan. That that one felt a bit 80s.
Yeah, that was actually decent.
Yeah. The sequel doesn't look that good because she has an adult body and she's talking about AI rights.
Yeah, don't bother watching Night Swim. It makes absolutely no sense. That's not good. Yeah, Thanksgiving didn't have any jump scares. There's a couple of things that don't quite make sense about it, but overall, it was a decent modern horror film, slasher film, I should say, that specific genre. But yeah, so that is our top 10 films from 1984.
Yeah.
So for those who joined in late, my list was A Nightmare on Elm Street, A Christmas Carol, Police Academy, This is Spinal Tap, Red Dawn, Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, Amadeus, The Terminator, Gremlins, and Ghostbusters.
Yeah, I had Rhinestone, Conan the Destroyer, Police Academy, Gremlins, Karate Kid, Romancing the Stone, Beverly Hills Cop, Temple of Doom, Ghostbusters, and Terminator.
So next one will be like around the end of next month, and that'll be the top 10 films from 1985.
Yeah, there's a lot of good ones in '85.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
So
I've kind of made that list already, but
I
yeah,
generally don't make the final list until pretty much the day of.
well, here's a couple of them though: Breakfast Club, Lady Hawk, Commando, Clue, Back
Oh
to
no,
the
I'm saying like
Future.
I know like I say I don't
It's-
finalize my list until the day of because
Yeah.
inevitably I know I'm going to go back and change it.
Yeah, but it's I mean the titles: The
Yeah.
Goonies,
Yeah.
Cocoon, Brewster's Millions, Fletch.
Brewster's Millions is actually a remake.
Yeah, it could be. I don't
No,
know.
it is.
Yeah, Weird Science.
I'm saying no, not could be. It is.
Yeah, Silver Bullets, 85 as well.
Yeah. So Brewster's Millions. I've seen the original.
Yeah.
So trust me when I say something is a remake. Yeah, Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2. I actually preferred, well, I'm not going to include that. I basically skip Part 2 and go straight to Dream Warriors.
But 3 is the best one, I think.
Yeah. So. But yeah. So like I said, I don't finalize my list until like the day of. I'll write down all the movies I've seen, but I don't. Yeah, thank you, 1945. Because basically the plot is he has to give away $1 million to inherit the remainder of the estate. So yeah, it's from 1945.
Easier to get rid of $1 million today.
Yeah, back then not so much, basically. So
Just go on
and
eBay.
he couldn't tell anyone, so he couldn't just say here's $1 million. Like no, like he had to like he couldn't tell anyone, so he basically just had to spend it. So he was spending it on like this like like crappy Broadway production and investing in like and like stuff that like like it's like not scam, but it's like she's trying to like throw his money away, and he gets down to where it's like he's like has just a little bit more to go, and he's like, I just need a receipt.
Yeah. Oh,
Ain't
Citizen Ronan brings up a good point that Dream Warriors had a Dawkins theme,
Mm-hmm.
but fun thing though, Hellraiser had Motorhead.
Yeah.
Jason had Alice Cooper.
Mm-hmm.
Freddy Krueger had Dawkins, and Maximum Overdrive had AC/DC. What happened to horror movies?
I don't
Where are
know.
the metal bands for the soundtracks?
Yeah, Trey. Whenever I do, like, if I ever do on ones and twos for Nightmare, the Nightmare films, it'll be Nightmare on Elm Street and then Nightmare on Elm Street 3. I skipped 2.
But 2 is basically being ignored.
Yeah.
But by the other ones. So
Yeah.
3 is actually the sequel.
Yeah. So basically, I'd say that just skips 2. Don't even bother. Go from 1 to 3.
Yeah.
And Alice Cooper is Freddy's dad in the TV show. Yep. But anyway, so yeah. So next time will be top 10 films in 1985. Next week, next Wednesday, it will be the good, the fun, and the weird. Where we go through like good articles, like fun articles and weird articles. And then the ones and twos for March will be Leprechaun and Leprechaun 2. And singles will be 13th Warrior and 47 Ronin.
Yeah, I've been invited to the 13th Warrior one.
Yes.
Because, yeah, I'm from Norway, therefore I only talk about Vikings. But it's a good movie, so yep. I'll be on it if I'm awake. That's what I told Orange.
Yeah. So those are the singles, and you have 2 weeks from today to watch Leprechaun, and I believe we're doing 13th Warrior first, but I have to double check with Orange Chat. But yeah, so Leprechaun, Jennifer Aniston's first film, I believe.
Yeah.
And 13th Warrior.
She denies it.
Yeah, so she can deny it all she wants. We have the video proof.
Yeah.
And Leprechaun 2, and followed by 47 Ronin. Tomorrow, I'll be on my kick playing some more Helldivers 2 with Gigawatt, if you're still in the chat, and Cowman, if he remembers. Because he somehow fucking forgot that I literally told him on my Discord, in the voice chat, I have Helldivers 2. And he forgot. Anyway, so Steve, let everybody know where they can find you and all that fun stuff.
Well, apparently here in a week.
Yeah.
That's all I know. Other than that, I'm on Twitter, which I basically used to shit on SJWs or whatever. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Been posting a lot of movie stuff because I get DMs sometimes. People say, "Hey, Dad, I had forgotten about that movie. Thank you. I'm gonna watch it."
Mm-hmm.
So a little bit of spreading entertainment tips for people, and poking at Mora now and again.
Yes, with your twisted mind. Anyway, yeah. So come hang out tomorrow on my kick, which is Jade Shadow, right here, playing some Helldivers 2. Yes, Cowman SOP. Cowman Standard Operating Procedure. So thank you, everyone. Have a good rest of your day or evening, depending on where you are in the world. And I will see you all next time. Peace.
You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go.